So first, thank you very much, and I would like to thank at the very outset ET team, particularly Vikas and Pratibha, an outstanding summit with a scale of participation which is rare in these times. We had Secretary Government of India, we had Joint Controller, we had outstanding speakers who are specialists in that game. So it has been a great listening right from the morning. We have got a very interesting topic today. That is, can India match China's pharma playbook? Licensing, incubators and innovation. And I have got outstanding panel members. Amit, great friend over the years. I call him a thought leader in the pharma industry. Although today he is with Immunil Therapeutics. He worked in KPMG, he played a very important role in TIE. He was with IQVIA and played a very important role both in the startup game and taking innovation at the forefront. So great to have Amit with us today. We have Dr. Bhargav. I came to know him today, but whatever interaction I had with you, it is such an outstanding interaction. We are missing Professor Sayeed. He had to go back because of some emergency. But what we'll do, we'll like to do is justice, and we will involve, this is after lunch session, and I am also a professor at IIM Ahmedabad. So I will involve, anyone I can involve and ask for opinion. So please be focused on whatever is being discussed, and every word I can assure is going to be very, very important. We'll take a lot of questions because we don't have answers to everything. I will start with the fact that it is a very exciting time for the Indian pharma industry. It is the time what we are waiting for. And when we were listening to Glenn and Alexander, we started some initiative 5 years back when I joined IPA. And Archana has been part of those initiatives. Then Sheila has joined and Pranam is here. We are seeing some signs of beginning of that change. And it was great to hear Dilip and Glenn, because Glenn has been passionate. When I joined IPA, he was the president. He was struggling at that time with innovation. And he was taking a call whether he should invest on innovation or not. That was the time Amit and Bhargav when I joined. I've been looking at this journey over the years. 5 years back, I also remember 2005, some of the important dates from Indian industry point of view. 1984, actually act which brought the generic industry into the focus, and India is the prominence of the world because of that fundamental. 1995, TRIP agreement announcement, and 2005, we signed patent agreement. At that particular moment, the question was whether Indian pharma industry will survive or not. However, when we see it now, we have just released a book, Alchemy of Care. Today, we are the third largest in terms of volume and 14th largest in terms of value. We play the volume game very well. We are way behind in the innovation game. We have done very well on the job of affordable at scale, affordability at scale. That is our strength. We are not at innovation at scale. We are at the beginning of the journey at innovation of scale. So what we need to do is get innovation at scale, because knowledge is the foundation of pharma industry. The question which was 2005, I will just give the context. Anji Reddy came with a molecule which was licensed to Novo Nordisk. And at that time, Glenn had just come to India and he was building Novo Nordisk. And he said he was impressed by Anji Reddy, and they said that they will build innovation pipeline in this country. He couldn't finish that agenda, and he wrote a book, Unfinished Agenda. And when Glenn was talking today, I was remembering he said, Sudarshan, that was the reason for me to come to India. And that is the passion which I bring, and you can hear that passion when he keeps on talking about his innovation journey. He was beaten up in the stock market every time the share used to go down, but today he can talk with confidence. So what we'll do is, after 2005 we lost. We are today, at that time, 2005, we were around 10 years ahead of China. But today, we are 25 years behind China. Various studies which have been done. So the panel discussion is so apt. There is some beginning of some steps which have been announced in the budget. Some movement is taking forward. We are convinced. I think this panel discussion should raise a lot of questions for thought leaders and for all of us to move forward to journey. So the first question we would like to address is, what is that China playbook we are talking about? And should we match that book, playbook, or should we take to our page teacher? India help us. So the key question is, first question, based to my panel members, what is the China playbook we are talking about? And what will be required to play to our potential? I will start with Amit. China playbook, we try to understand it. I will come back to some of you. A lot of experts are sitting here, a lot of good friends are sitting here. We will try to address that question. Amit.
Thank you, Sudarshanji. And I think it's an honor to sit with you, given the lifetime that you've dedicated and now seeing the next wave of the industry. So I speak from a vantage point of being a company that is trying to disrupt the affordability and scale equation for advanced therapies. So we're building a biotech company for cell and gene therapy, and we're trying to bring the cost down by over 95%, and I'll talk to you about how we're doing it. And I've spent a lot of time in China over the last year and a half. See, what happened in China, and all of this started, at least on the biotech side, only 15 years ago, when they announced the biotech policy, right? And if you read the biotech policy, they have more than delivered what they wrote in that plan. And now they are writing the next 15-year plan. What they managed to do was almost a structural shift in what they've landed at this point today, which is more than a third of the innovation, at least in the area I work in, and even more, is coming from China. They did a few things. I think the path to innovation, and especially for startups, the uncertainty of time is much more currency that they spend than money itself. There is a lot of money that is available, but if you don't know the time that it will take for you to get your asset in the right phases of research, then that money can run out before you even can think about it. So when China looked at the biotech policy, they realized there were fundamentally 3 or 4 gaps. One, the talent ecosystem was not available. China did not have, and we are struggling with the same issues today. We have hundreds and thousands of scientists, PhDs, but how many of them stay back in India? It's a question to ponder upon. Same problem was in China. The second, the regulatory pathway to actually get the drug into the trial, into the clinic, was very elaborate, was completely broken. Number 2. Number 3, there was almost zero to negligible risk capital and government support to actually drive innovation. What interestingly China did, at least based on my understanding over the last few visits, they worked on all these 3 things simultaneously. They brought back very top-notch talent back into China. If you today you look at the 200, 300 odd cell and gene companies that are there, some of them, most of them actually, are being run by scientists who've come back from the West, who have come back to China, and now they are running some of these companies. So they've got a reverse journey of talent, and that talent has brought in the learnings from the West. They've brought in the mistakes that the West made, and that's why China said we will not make these mistakes. In fact, that was one. The second was China took a very bold move to create an entire model for first in human studies. It takes about 45 to 60 days to get your drug into an IIT, which is an investigator-initiated trial, right? And there could be questions around the data, there could be questions around the process, but they are doing it. Today, as we speak, there are close to 2,400 trials happening in the cell and gene therapy space. Close to 1,600 out of that is happening only in China, and less than 100 is happening in India. So that's the differential, right? That is there, and all of that got enabled because the institutional framework got together with the investigators to accelerate the pathway. Then they opened up the stock market in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong became the entire financial gateway to list phase 1 assets, which we don't have today in India. Today it's impossible to raise money on a phase 1 asset in India. You have to go to the West, or you have to go to Singapore or to US, and that means you take your data to the US or the West, right? You can't do this in India at all. So China solved for finance, China solved for talent, it solved for regulatory pathway, right? And hence I called it a structural shift that they did. So I'm going to pause here, Sudarshan, but I think it's enough food for thought. But that's what at least my reading has been after understanding what China did. I mean, it comes with its own costs, but they've done what they did.
Thanks, Amit. Very insightful.
No, thank you. It's a privilege to be back here and to be a part of this gathering. I think the question of India, China, the US, all being compared in terms of innovation, in terms of economy, in terms of growth, in terms of capital flows, inflows, outflows. I think we live in a world where things are fluid, and it's important, I guess, for India to realize her vision for 2047 with Viksit Bharat, and to really think of India leading the world. And for me, the opportunity or the insights that I bring are really kind of with the lens of my experience in the US, as well as taking this innovation with a deep academic anchor at Carnegie Mellon University, where I co-lead the Center for Digital Vaccines, and have already created a global ecosystem. Now, recently with the National University of Singapore, with the School of Medicine as well as the School of Computing, and I think what the US is really great at, or has been kind of the quality of the academic research that they've been able to produce. Of course, that's been a function of the fact that they were able to attract the best and the brightest from all over the world. I myself went there as a graduate student a long time ago, and that has been kind of the feeder for them to have new ideas, a reinvention of themselves, of their abilities, and to continue to kind of stay at the forefront. I think China had a lot to catch up on in the dimension of academic research and academic institutions. And one thing that China has done remarkably in the last few decades is really to invest in their academic research. And now you can see that it used to be that it was always the top institutions in the world based on the research output and the number of papers and the citations and the impact. Used to be dominated by the US. But I think Times recently put together a ranking of the top universities in the world, and you can very clearly see that now the shift has already moved towards China. Now, so China has academic centers, has research. I think the one thing that they've also been able to do is have a conviction for making very deep bets. And so I think that was something that gave them the ability to accept and tolerate the risk for innovation. but it was the depth of their conviction that allowed them to overcome these risks. And of course, for the successes that we see in China, there's no doubt that there were many that attempted and that we just don't hear about or don't know about. So I think it's a combination of having risk ability, risk capital, ecosystems of academic and industry kind of working together. And so let me bring the lens back to India, because I think it's one thing to know what's on the outside, but I subscribe to the philosophy that the truth lies within us, and there is an inner strength that is uniquely India. And so let's talk about what that is. And clearly, India has the largest population for any country in the world. And that brings opportunities, it also brings challenges, it also brings scale that you don't see in any other part of the world. I think especially from a health perspective, given this large population and our aspirations to grow economically, the health of our citizens is kind of the biggest asset that we have as a nation. And so the importance of a bio-revolution, not only to try and fix disease in our large population, but really to hopefully prioritize that we kind of go back to perhaps our ancient wisdom of roots of thinking about prevention and really focusing on precision prevention and being able to do it with today's latest technology, which I guess in everybody's consciousness is probably something to do with artificial intelligence. But the idea that we can potentially bring these pieces together and leverage the technology expertise that India has made a name for itself, probably not in the product side or the deep technology side, but certainly in terms of harnessing technologies to be able to deliver world-class services. So we have a talent pool. We've built global organizations. We have a massive population, which means that there is also a great opportunity to do peerless, unprecedented scale of scientific research. We also have great academic institutions, but we need real depth of researchers who can actually undertake these types of bold new ideas and to have funding mechanisms that support them. But I think if we play to India's strengths, which has always been entrepreneur-driven, startup-driven, technology-driven, I think the advantage that India will have or should leverage is the fact that we can run these massive experiments that you can't do in any other part of the world. You can do it with technologies of today and probably even futuristic technologies that we can actually implement. We can do it with much greater cost efficiency. And we can then have a clear vision inspired by what the IT industry was able to do to represent India as a brand to the world. But if we can kind of replicate that in terms of the biological, life science, pharmaceutical, and the digital medicine space, then there's a massive opportunity where I don't think it's about India having anybody else that has these pieces or these assets that can be combined in a way that not only solves India's problem, but can honestly solve the world's problems, and India can take a leadership position. So that's kind of my sense of where India can go with this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Babu. If I go back, Amit and Babu, some of the key learning, both of them have been talking about talent. Both of them have been talking about deputy reform. Both of them have been talking about funding. Then Bhargav talked about taking big bets. We talked about talent. And one of the things which you were referring to, if we see Chinese universities today, top two universities in the world, they are Chinese. They have overtaken some of the American universities. If we see CRDM or CDRM in space, the company is equivalent to all CDRMO companies in it. And whatever turnover China does in a month, we do in a year. The kind of scale, big bet, is very, very important. Talent point, if I see one is the 1,000 talent program, they have also put up genius plan where they identify students in their school and take them till the last day, where they become the maximum discoverer in the world. It has been covered very well in the financial times. So a lot is being done. The question is, yes, China has moved forward. They are ahead of us. We have taken, this is the first time when I was hearing budget speech, I was talking about now, Peter and Pranav. First time the announcement begins with I was thinking that I will join budget later. And number of times biopharma, clinical trials is related to that. This is the first time I am seeing Secretary from the Government of India sitting with us right from morning and today evening he is going to IDMA Farm. This is the first time that Joint Drug Controller of India came and spent a lot of time, and they are spending time individually with everyone. So they spend time with Amit, Bhutan, and Chakravarti, and many of you. So there is a lot of listening. Now, our system is different compared to China. The question which I will raise to Amit and Harlo is, if we have to catalyze innovation, if we have to step up, what needs to be done? The story is very important, talent is important, funding is important, that means system is important. Where are the gaps? That's one or two things, and I can catch up everyone in the audience, but many of them. There are a lot of experts who are sitting here. So Amit and Bhargav will take the help of some experts and then come out with something. What do you want? Starting with you. Some structural reforms which have been done in India, specific terms, and you will submit later.
I think in this new era of life sciences, the molecule is as important as the technology, both hard and soft, on how it's being developed, manufactured, and delivered to the patient. All of these things are now going together. It's no longer about creating a great molecule. Now, one of the things I think we need to do to develop the ecosystem is we need to understand how we are creating the backbone of the supply chain. That is manufacturing and supporting the development of some of these at scale. Because what happens is, especially in again my area, which is the cell and gene therapy area, the process goes in along with the product as part of the package. So what the Chinese have done very, very smartly, which we need to do is, they have embedded the process, the machinery, the vectors, everything, and the moment they go into the global pathway, everybody gets a market opportunity, right? So all of these companies automatically move to the US along with the approval. So we need to understand that it's no longer about getting a product approved, it is about building a whole ecosystem behind it. And I think that the time is right for us to make that bold announcement and invest heavily in that infrastructure, because people are looking for alternates. People will be willing to consider alternate supply chains, alternate supply sources, and that's a reality of the current geopolitical situation. We will miss the bus if we don't do that. I think there is a huge opportunity in front of the CRDMOs, and I think many of them are missing the opportunity, in my view, to stand aside and really do some innovative work.
That's a great point. What Amit is saying with the integrated business, and a very, very important point. And one the very important point which Amit is saying, no one wants to rely on your money. So diversified sources is very, very important. That's one of the important.
No, I think that's a terrific point, Amit. And I think just to kind of build on that, the one thing that really kind of creates transformation is to have visionary leadership. And sometimes visionary leadership is difficult to stomach because because of the capital, because of the constraints, because of all the reasons why a grand vision is not possible. I think in some ways, India, and I think people of Indian origin have achieved as much as they have, say, in the West, in terms of their accomplishments, in terms of their scientific contributions, in terms of their leadership in companies, rising past the best in the world. And I think the filter applied to people that went through this process was obviously very stringent. It required great discipline, it required a great tenacity, it required a great mindset for excellence, for perseverance, and to kind of set the bar as high as we can imagine. I think in some ways, even when we think about this opportunity in India, I think there are lots of things that we can look from within India itself that are true Indian success stories on the world stage. So I go back to the IT industry, on the services side, we're best in class. I mean, there's a lot of success that we can learn from. Different industry, Indian context, models, constraints, similar dynamics, but they were able to break into being the best in the world. Let's look at a completely different thing. Let's look at sport. Let's look at cricket, for example. There was a time when the Indian cricket team would never be able to play away from India, and would never be able to win or imagine winning a World Cup in the 80s. When we were able to pull that off was just beyond what anybody thought was possible. But once that breakthrough happened, I think it created successive generations that began to believe that that was possible. I think from a pharma perspective, maybe we haven't quite seen that world-class leading kind of breakthrough happen from being an India story. But I think that should not stop us from dreaming like that, not stop us from thinking about that or aiming for that. Of course there's going to be casualties, of course there's going to be risk, of course we need capital, but there are constraints. But I think we should draw on what Indians have done best to bring out kind of world-class performance despite all these constraints, is to still be able to win and be the best in the world at what we do, whatever that domain. And I think this is kind of a calling to myself as much as I guess for the entire audience, that we need to kind of aim to be the best in the world. And uncompromisingly, not China, not America, not Japan, not Europe, we have to be the best in the world. And there's no compromise there.
Thanks so much. 2 points. Journey of India has been the journey of entrepreneurship. We saw Dilip Sangvi and Glenn in the earlier section talking of their journey. And early success, when it happens, start building it. The point is working. If we start momentum built up, start building up. The 2 great examples you talk about IT industry, started with 80, $400 billion industry. Again, everyone put their mind together. And what happened in IT industry? I will say NASCOM did. All of us here, whether it is OCPI, ICA, ITMA, Barbe is here, we are putting our mind together. We could see the enthusiasm of all the leaders who focus on it. Very, very important. And it is the starting point. Entrepreneurship, taking big bets, everyone thinking and focus on that thing. And both Amit as well as Bhargav highlighted it. I will get some comments from some of you, 1 or 2 comments. Barbe is here. Barbe, you have to talk. How do we better our China story and what needs to be done? Barbe has been in the industry veteran. And then I will ask Akbar or anyone else 1 or 2 comments, and then we'll start.
First of all, not they have identified the places also. Vizag is another example where we are going now. Maharashtra is also going in that direction. And lot of announcements. I was listening yesterday, the Chief Minister's speech. He is talking about reforms in 100 reforms in 120 days. That is what he is talking about, how the Maharashtra and advantage of Maharashtra. And he is taking along the changes which are required at ease of doing business. He is talking about some of the best universities what we have, UDCT, we have IIT Mumbai, we have all those, these are there in his card. And things are happening so that we are having that China plus one, what we are talking about ultimately, but where we have to go that. He has already announced that parks which are happening in Raigad district, which is happening in Nagpur, which is also hub now, which is coming up. So all in all, road infrastructure is also going up in Mumbai, in Maharashtra, all along. The travel time is also getting reduced, and it is all friendly environment as far as the industry is concerned. So I am very hopeful that definitely with this constructive efforts, with interaction with government and industry on a regular basis, will definitely help us to bridge the gap between the two. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. In fact, everyone in the government, we were there, UP, all the government people, they are talking, all the state government. There is a fundamental change in the infrastructure which is built up. Yeah, one more
Just
comment.
one comment, follow on to Amit. If you look at the China's drug discovery story, in 2015, I think they had a 10% or 20% of assets as compared to global innovation criteria which you put into percentile. And then now if you see they are reached at 80%. So I think China's innovation is definitely the science what Amit has put. They had a talent drain and all the scientific perspectives, but additionally they could translate that science into early clinical success. Because today whatever the deals we are seeing from China, it's just because they have that human proof of concept for that translation, and that is that giving them the value. So I think that's something we have to leverage. It's not only the innovation, but how quickly we translate into human and generate some small patient data where we can say that the translation is working. So I think.
Thank you very much. 30-second comment, Chakravarti.
Sudarshanji, thank you very much. Three intellectuals on one platform. We couldn't ask more than this. But let me tell you, don't call me cynical, but at the same time, as a layman and a small volunteer in this, a small fry in this big pharma ocean, I feel cynical when I go to Seoul or when I go to Shanghai, both countries actually. South Korea also bringing in along with China. We feel like we are let down, despite all the positive things. Okay, light at the end of the tunnel. Now we are talking about light along the tunnel also with all the initiatives, the people like you are spearheading. But let me ask you, this is China innovation. Why is China innovation is going fast forward? There is a policy continuity. We have to agree. Scale funding. In India we are talking so much, there is no scale funding. And fast regulatory pathways. I think JDC has gone. I also discussed with them in the morning. So in India, what structural reform would make the biggest difference in the next 5 years?
30 seconds. Namita is here for content.
I think one thing that needs to be done, and I'll be very frank here, is all the wealth that has been created by the entrepreneurs in pharma needs to go into innovation.
Okay.
Once you put in the money, everything goes
Just a quick question. See, we are so much blocked by the in-licensing. So in-licensing, are we seeing it as a substitute to original R&D or a bridge to the new innovation? This is it.
So maybe a lot of questions which are there in the mind, unless we get into mission mode, this journey will not move forward. We are at the early stage. It will require integrated effort on all of it, whether it is talent, regulatory reform, funding, and getting moving in an integrated way. It is just a start, but there is no choice for us but to move up the value chain. Thank you very much. A lot of questions in the mind. Thank you very much. Thank you.